Well, thanks for inviting us, and thanks for talking about education and having so many nice people here to listen and to also partake in some questioning and some answers. I have the privilege of being on the Cincinnati School Board. I am a proud graduate of CPS about 1,000 years ago, and indeed am very, very proud of what we are trying to do. Because if we cannot save the urban core and public schools that are in the urban core, if we can't do it in Cincinnati, it can't be done anywhere. And let me tell you why that's the case. Everybody in this room knows we have a very long, proud history of support for our public schools in every way imaginable. Everybody knows that we have one of the strongest parochial systems in the country. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that is my age or even 10 years younger knows that we've been fighting the good fight for almost 2 generations. And the good fight was the fact that when indeed 71 and 75 were built, and when indeed you had 275 happen, and you had the great flight to the suburbs, what happened in the communities was that the urban core got depleted of tax base, talent, folks, all kinds of things. It's not surprising then that the urban core's school system began to suffer, and the urban core school system had to figure out a way to survive. And very frankly, in many, many cities, this is not happening. In Cincinnati, long before I was on the board, very, very bright, visionary people decided to stop dying and start living. And they found ways to introduce the concept of magnet schools. They found ways to partner with the Catholic parochial school system. They found ways to privatize certain operations, but not privatize our schools. They found ways also to begin to introduce choice. Of our 15 high schools, all but 2 of them are high schools of choice. Your enrollment boundaries don't determine what high school you go to. And that's a good marketplace plan. Another reason that we've been able to survive, I think, besides visionary leadership, is the generosity of the taxpayers in our district. Remember, Cincinnati's school system is larger than the city. There are 5 precincts in Green Township that can defeat almost any levy we put forward, if they want to. Keep that in mind. Also keep in mind, this generosity truly has manifested itself. Over the last 35 years, we have, with new money and renewable money, I think a 68% passage rate. No big city in this country can claim that. That's very important. And you also all know that that great generosity happened when indeed about a dozen years ago, under the leadership of Governor Gilligan and some other very wide-eyed crazy folks on that school board and in the community, decided to rebuild the school system to the tune of $1.2 billion. Our 55 schools are either completely restored and renovated, or they are darn brand new. Not one child of ours at CPS, even with over 70% of economically disadvantaged families being a part of our district, not one of our children sits in an old seat, a decaying building, and every one of them knows at some level of their consciousness, people they don't know invested in that. As a teacher of 36 years, I got to tell you, you can't measure that. But we are beginning to measure it. And indeed, as you know, we have become the top performing urban district. As you know, more importantly than that, we have also become the model or the approach, as we heard last night, for how you begin to restore an urban-centered district. And that is through community learning centers. Of our 55 schools now, almost, I think it's 39 of them are at full fruition of Community Learning Center, which means they have a dedicated resource coordinator that goes out into the community and brings the community into the school, and the resources are leveraged at the best possible way for our children, our staff, and indeed what you're seeing in Cincinnati right now, downtown and all around, this renovation, this renaissance that we're all experiencing, and you all know we're having something happen here, I think was absolutely predicated and built on that $1.2 billion investment people made in their children. I really do, because those 55 sites are throughout the district. It isn't concentrated in the river banks, it's not concentrated in the actual downtown core, it's spread throughout. I have great concern about whether or not we can keep doing this, largely because nobody yet has fully figured out how you overcome the challenges of poverty, of homelessness, and more particularly now for us, mobility. At any given time, 8% of our kids in CPS are homeless. We have one school, Academy of World Languages. There are 50 countries there and 40 languages. And those people in Columbus are going to tell us that we're failing because those folks aren't learning English fast enough. I would like to give you a gesture, but I won't. Directed toward Columbus. We have a school system where indeed more than half of our kindergarten classes coming in are speaking Spanish. They ain't speaking English. That's exciting. This is the #3 country for the State Department, for the State Department sending refugees from around the world. This is an international city. And only through the Community Learning Center concept, where we don't wrap up the schools, but indeed open the schools and embrace the community, are we able to even leverage the resources that we need in order to move forward. We had, and I hate to say it, but there's 3,311 schools in the state of Ohio. The #1 school in the state of Ohio is Hyde Park Elementary. It's only been in existence for 3 years. Out of 3,311 schools. You know, Walnut and SCPA are world renowned, that's fine. But more particularly, we have to now, our big challenge, and we've lived with it and worked through it, from Mrs. Blackwell to Mrs. Ronan, our great 2 superintendents of the last several years, focusing in on the neighborhood schools where there is deep, desperate poverty. What is it, Julie? The second or the third?
Second highest poverty rate in the nation.
For children. Cincinnati has the second highest poverty rate for children in the United States of America. And guess what? Many of them, most of them are in our schools. And that may be the only place they're fed. They may feel safe. And maybe beyond their loved ones at home, feel like somebody is investing in them. We've not cracked that nut how to do as well as we need to for those children, but we're working tirelessly. Our staff, our parents, our community partners are working tirelessly to crack that nut. And what we really decided to do, sort of, is say, guess what? We will narrow the achievement gap when we narrow the opportunity gap. And we are narrowing the opportunity gap in any number of ways. Throughout the country, we have the third, I think it's, yeah, we're ranked third, that's how to say it, ranked third regarding offering nutritious food to our children. Agriculture Department has said that. We've even reached the point that we're not even looking at free and reduced lunch now. It's universal lunch. It's universal breakfast. And that's important for us. We are in the country, the third district of green and LEED buildings. And with our concentration of asthma that we have in our school district, that's critical. That's important. People are investing. We have 21 school-based health centers as we confront this opportunity gap. 21 school-based health centers. That's more than the entire state has. We have at Cincinnati Public. Because we and our partners, our citizens, our families, our staff are investing in narrowing the opportunity gap in order to achieve a more narrow achievement gap. It takes long, but every single day there's a victory, if you think about it. It may not necessarily always show up, although, you know, the way the state rates us, not only are we the top urban performing district, but for the last 12 years, that's been the case. For the last 12 years, our performance index, the only thing they haven't moved, what is it, football, the goalposts? Every time we start to do something really well, they say, well, wait a minute, you got to go another 35 yards. Okay, fine. Sooner or later, we'll be able to walk to Columbus once they fix this. But the reality is, even with that happening to us and for us and by these other folks, even with that happening, our performance index steadily has gone up. So we are fighting the good fight. We are going to have success. And I share with you the board's goals and vision and mission, largely because I think you'll be pleased that it does talk an awful lot, not only about vision, but about equity. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.